Dinner's over and now I'm laying in bed, which sometimes causes me to cough. I don't know if my bronchitis is back or it's just the copious amount of dust that I inhaled, but I have a cough. Anyway, coming down was rough. Capital R, rough. So we started, so it's just kind of, days 1 through 5 were like totally fine. I mean, they were tough day hikes, and then you had to sleep in a tent. But honestly, the tents are pretty nice. I'm so glad we paid a little extra for me and Holly to each have our own tents, and I'm so glad that we did that because that was nice to just have that extra space. And so the tents are pretty nice, and then honestly, like for camping, it was fairly comfortable. I just rented a match or a sleeping bag from them because I didn't have one, and I have no need for a sleeping bag that's good up to 20 degrees or negative 20 degrees Celsius. I don't plan to ever need that again in my life. So I rented one from them. Then they provide a foam mat, and then for another $20 you could rent an additional inflatable mat that they would inflate for you each night. And so it was the sleeping bag on top of the inflated mat on top of the foam mat. And so honestly, it was like not uncomfortable. I mean, really, the worst part was just because, sleeping in sleeping bags is annoying, especially because I move a lot when I sleep. And so it gets all messed up, and the zipper on mine didn't work very well. But anyway, it was fine. It was fine. That part was fine. Not that I want to camp anymore. But I knew that going into it. I didn't want to camp before. But I mean, they set it all up for you. So your tent's all set up. All your stuff's in your tent. You just unroll your sleeping bag and roll it back up in the morning. And then they cook for you. We had a mess tent where we'd go several times a day. They fed us a lot of food. And we had 3 full meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus we would have happy hour, which was like warm drinks and a snack. And so it was a lot. So we had that mess tent where everybody would eat together. And then, they had each of the campsites had like bathrooms, but each of the stalls was literally just a hole in the ground with some pieces of wood on each side so you could brace your feet against them, I guess. I guess they're Asian style toilets. I don't know. It wasn't for me. But we did our company set up 2 toilet tents. So, I mean, they're just little tiny tents that have like kind of a portable toilet, but it's like a Western style toilet, almost more like an airplane kind of toilet, where like, obviously it's storing everything like in the bottom. There's no plumbing, but it was like a thing. It had a lid. You could sit down. You didn't need anything fancy or any squatting and hovering or anything like that. So honestly, with all that, like, it was pretty high-end camping, which was not bad. Actually, it was great. I mean, I still don't want to camp anymore, but It's the only way to camp, to have everybody do everything for you. So, and there's this cute little guy, Albert. Every day when we would get in from our hike, he would dust off our pants and shoes for us, and it was just really, the people are just the best. We had a group of, started with 13, but on day 2, the oldest guy in our group, I think he got some sort of stomach bug or whatever, but he was, apparently they call it, he had the double dragon coming out both ends, and so ultimately he wasn't cleared to continue, so he had to leave on day 2, which was a bummer for him. And so then we had 12 people, and so for 12, well, I think it was for 13, whatever, say it for 13 people, it was 13 of us climbers, and then 40 guides and porters, that came with us, and it was just, I was telling Holly today, the porters is one of those things, one of the reasons you couldn't come do this trip by yourself, because there's just not going to be a way to describe what it is that they do every day. It's just wild. They serve us breakfast in the morning. We get our bags packed up. We put our bags out for them. Well, actually, I don't know if it's just because I was always the slowest one or what, but somebody would always come to my tent and grab my bags for me and take them over. And then after we ate breakfast, we'd grab our day packs or backpacks, and we would start. And then they would all break down the whole camp. So all of our tents, the mess tent, because so there's our mess tent, there was the staff mess tent, there was a cooking tent, I think just one, but maybe 2, and then there must have been a tent where the porters all slept, or maybe they slept in their mess tent after that was all done. I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, there were a lot of tents, and they would break it all down, all that stuff. And then throughout the day, as we were hiking up, all day long, it would be like, porter on your right, because the porters just go racing past us. They're holding these gigantic bags of all of our stuff, plus all the cooking stuff and all the, just everything, all the stuff. And they would go so fast, and they would get to the next camp way before us, so they could set everything up and have it all ready for us when we got there. And it's just wild, the things. And some of them, these big duffel bags, some of these guys were just balancing them on their head, not even holding on, just balancing on their head and just booking it up the mountain. It was just crazy. But they're rock stars. All of the staff was amazing. And I literally wouldn't have made it up the mountain on summit day. I wouldn't have made it up without a few of them, because they did eventually have to take my day pack from me, and they carried it for me. So sorry, this is gonna be the longest polo ever. Just put it on 2x speed or whatever. But so there are the porters, all the guys that I was just talking about that do all our tents and all this, carry all this stuff. And then we had 5 guides, 2 lead guides and 3 assistant guides, who were the ones that actually walked with us and set the pace for us, because so they say pole, which is slowly, slowly. And that's like the slogan for getting up the mountain, is you just go slowly. And so when you're doing it, it doesn't feel that slow. When you watch other people, it looks ridiculously slow. But man, when you're doing it, it does not feel slow. But anyway, so the guides are with us, and then especially there's people who are a little faster and a little slower. They can kind of break off and make sure every group of people within our group had a guide with them. And so I was struggling hardcore on summit day. I mean, we hike full days, like serious hikes for 5 days. And then on the 6th day, we do a hike and we get to camp, and they're like, okay, take a nap. Or, yeah, they said eat lunch, take a nap. We'll wake you up for dinner, then you take another nap. Then we'll wake you up to start climbing. And that's just not enough rest for the body. So they woke us up. We had to wake up at 10 p.m. and get everything packed up and eat like a small meal. I don't know, they fed us so much. All carbs and salt. Which was great, but eventually, like tonight for dinner, I was like, I need a salad so bad. So that's what I got. And so we started the climb at 11 p.m. with the idea being that we would get to the summit right around sunrise. That's a long time. From 11 p.m. to sunrise is too long to not be sleeping when you haven't slept really before that, and you just did a whole bunch of days of hiking, and you're starting out at 15,000 feet and you're going up to 19,000. Too long, too early, too long, too dark. So we started, and it's just brutal. The other problem too is that you're just alone with your thoughts, and that is a long time to be alone with your thoughts, because nobody's really talking that much because we're all stuck in wind. And man, you think a lot of things. Most of them are not very good either. So anyway, so that's roughly 8 hours. Hold on. Let me see what time I summited exactly, and that'll break up this video a little bit. Okay, we're back. I summited right at 7 a.m. That is 8 straight hours through the whole entire night of hiking uphill, very high in the sky. I do not recommend doing that ever. You guys probably know that. That's why you're not here. But I just had to confirm it for myself, apparently. Not fun. Very, very not fun. So anyway, so I was struggling, but not from altitude sickness. They tested me at one point and I was just fine. Like I didn't have any of those symptoms or anything. I just like could not catch my breath. And so they kept offering to take my backpack, and I was like, no. Also, my back was hurting because at this point we'd been hiking and carrying backpacks for like a bazillion days. And so my back was hurting, which I expected. But also it was cold. We never determined exactly what the temperature was at the summit. Plus they do everything here in Celsius, so that's kind of hard to figure out. But they were saying it was like negative 20 Celsius. I don't know. The cold was really like the least of my worries, but it was still cold. I had plenty of stuff on, so that didn't bother me as much as I thought that it would, to be honest. I thought the cold and altitude would be the hardest things, and those were really a non-issue. It was just, seems like everything else. But anyway, so eventually one of the guides, it was like 2 a.m., he finally just took my backpack from me. I was like, well, okay, I'm not mad about that. But it was still a struggle. It was a struggle of all struggles. And it just like never ends. 8 hours of hiking is a long time. 8 hours of hiking in the dark overnight is a long time. 8 hours of just going straight uphill is a long time. 8 hours of going just straight uphill in the dark at high altitude is just, one might say, too many things. But anyway, kept going, one foot in front of the other. And one of the guides, he was so sweet. He just kept like encouraging me. He's like, my head office is at the top, and it's just ahead. You'll get there. No problem. And all this stuff. So his name was Edward, and he was cross-eyed, which was kind of endearing. And he was just very sweet and helping me, just like, honestly, I don't know if it's harder physically or mentally. It's physically very challenging, but it's also mentally very challenging. And the two together are very, very challenging. So anyways, I finally, somehow, I don't even know, got to the top. It's kind of a bummer because, we literally saw the sunrise, all this stuff. I didn't take any pictures of any of that. One, I was wearing these big old bulky gloves that I would have to take off to get my phone out and get my camera. Plus, I had hiking poles. Plus, I just wanted everything to be over. So I didn't take many pictures, but everybody in my group is going to be sharing pictures, so other people got some, so at least I can show you their pictures. But it's really pretty, and it's really exciting to see the sunrise, because that means you must be getting at least close-ish to the top, which is just terrible. It wasn't close enough ever. And then when I got up there, of course, we got all our pictures and everything with the sign. But other people are doing like selfies with the view's like pretty cool, obviously. I'm like, I got up, now I gotta get down. And anyway, this all leads back to the going down, which was, I don't remember what I said, rough or brutal or whatever. It was so hard. I don't know how much of it was actually difficult, because you had to keep your balance. So from the summit to base camp, it was all just like rocky, like scree, they call it. And so you just like one wrong step and your feet just slide out from under you. So your body's exhausted from that whole 8-hour hike situation that I just explained. And And then after 8 hours at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're still on top of a mountain, but you can't stay there. So you got to go somewhere. So then you start going down, and it's miserably hard. And like, at least for me, my body was so tense trying to keep my balance that then all my muscles just got so tight. And it hurt. And it's like it never ended. It was, hold on, let me check and see how long it was from summit to base camp. Okay, I didn't take a picture when I got back to base camp because we'd already been there, and honestly, I really didn't care about taking a picture at that point because we weren't done. But that was 8, 9, 10, 11, about 4 hours. No, we got there right around 12. I think 11 or 12. It really, time didn't matter at that point. I think we got there around 12, and he told us, okay, in 1 hour we're gonna have lunch, and that was 1:10. That was the time we were having lunch. So, jeez, I might be getting my dates mixed up. I don't know. But no, that's right. Because we had lunch. I don't know, whatever. You don't care that much. We got there 11 or 12. We had lunch and a 1 hour rest. Which was great. Nowhere near long enough. Absolutely nowhere near long enough. Because, at that point, we'd been going 8 hours plus 4 or 5 hours. So we're talking 11 to 12 hours. Or 12 to 13 hours. Yeah, 12 to 13 hours. After, like the 6 days beforehand of all that hiking and stuff, which was not nothing. So anyway, we get our rest. I pass out. It feels like 2 seconds later, they're waking me up. And we got to keep going. So overall, we had about a 2-hour stop for lunch and rest at base camp. And then we had to keep on going down to our last camp. So from the summit to base camp, summit's a little over 19,000. Base camp was around 15,000. And then we had to go from base camp to our final camp, which is around 10,000, I want to say. So we were going 9,000 feet down in a day after, we already did that up part. So at least the rocky scree stuff was done after base camp. Then it was fine for a little bit. And then we had these rocks that were like bigger rocks. You had to like step. They were like big steps. But of course, if you step wrong or it's slippery, then you fall, which I forgot to mention. On my way down from the summit, I kept falling down. And they had already taken my backpack from me. And so then they decided that I needed somebody to like hold my arm the whole way. And so they kept rotating through people who would just like grab my arm and lock it in next to theirs, and we would have to like walk together. And so if I slipped, they could like catch me, which honestly I think actually, I don't know, maybe it was helpful. It was embarrassing for a little bit, and then honestly there's just no shame about anything after a while. But I think then I was tensing up. So it's hard to walk on slippery stuff like side by side with someone and navigating all these like rocks and stuff. And now you've got 4 feet to deal with instead of 2, and you're right next to each other. And you got to make sure nobody's falling. But so I think that actually like messed up my muscles more because I was so tense. I don't know, but I was so tense. So my muscles were just so tight. So that was, I got the backpack carry and the handhold down to base camp, which was, you know, whatever. Of course, Holly didn't need those things. But, you know, we are not the same person, as I have even further cemented in my mind. Anyway, but so then after we got to base camp, we were going down. Then I said, no more hand holding. I'll be fine. They still took my backpack though. And so base camp, then we went to high camp, which was fine. And then high camp down to, I think it was Mweka Camp. I think is what it was called. That's where we actually stayed. That's where it was all the giant rocks. And that's where Holly finally, like, was about to die. It was pretty brutal. And I just can't, like, properly describe it. It was too many things. But anyway, and we finally made it down to our final destination camp right about 7:00 p.m. So 11 p.m. the night before to 7:00 p.m. the next day with a 2-hour break, but either going straight up or straight down, both of which suck, by the way. So that was pretty terrible, but we did it, which was the goal. So that was good. I don't think I'll ever be doing that again, unless if they were to install like a chairlift or a zip line from the top, then maybe I would consider it. But the coming down after your body's already so tired, and then it's just so much pounding on the knees, it's on just literally everything hurts. And so yeah, Holly had her knees taped up. One of her like doctor friends or something taped her knees up. She said she was really glad that she did that because going down was so brutal. And then of course we went down more today. It wasn't as bad today, but it was still like 4 hours. So anyway, that's a little bit of our adventure. I mean, there's like a bazillion things I could tell you, but you're already probably tired of this never-ending polo. So, I'll tell you more later. But that was our summit night and descent, which was, yeah, just pretty much terrible. Given more time, I think I'll appreciate it more. But right now, I just never, ever, ever want to do that again. But we're safe. We're healthy. I mean, I was walking around earlier at one of the stores we walked or stopped at on our way back to the hotel, and a lady walked by me and she's like, man, I feel like I'm walking like you. I was like, great. But yeah, I look terrible. My body hurts real bad. But, we did it. That's what matters. And there's some insight. So our porters they're like the best people here. They're so sweet. I love them so much. They did, some of the porters ran us up some hot tea while we were summiting. I wasn't feeling nauseous at any point, which I'm really glad about. Which does remind me that I need to take my malaria pills, which may make me feel nauseous. I don't know. We'll find out. But they ran some hot tea, which literally, okay, we've been hiking for hours and hours, whatever. They literally pack up some thermoses of hot tea and some mugs, and they like run it up the mountain to us and meet us, coming from the same place we came from. It's just wild. I can't even describe it to you. But anyways, I don't like tea, and so I didn't drink any. And then they were like, "Why aren't you drinking your tea?" We also discovered, as a group discovered that it's kind of awkward, because all of us have like things that we don't like. Of course, I have the whole vegan thing. And somebody in our group made the kind of mistake of asking one of our porters, like, "What's some food that you don't like?" And they're like, "Oh, I eat anything." Because they don't have the luxury of not liking something. So that was just one of those kind of eye-opening moments. You're like, "Oh, I'm a jerk." But anyway, whatever. I didn't drink the tea. And I told them I didn't like tea, so they took it away from me. So I don't know. Had I known that it had cocaine in it, I probably would have tried it, because I would have taken whatever would get me up that stupid mountain. But not regular black tea. That's not going to get me up the mountain. But black tea laced with cocaine, maybe. I don't know. Everybody else said the tea was good, so maybe I just missed out. I don't know. But on our way down from the summit, some more guys, of course, ran us up a whole jug of pineapple juice, and they poured cups of pineapple juice for everyone. And that was delicious. I had 2 cups of that. And then, because I was the slowest one, which I wasn't the slowest one on any of the other days until summit and then going down. Then I was the slowest one. So I wasn't completely like the worst overall, but clearly when it got to summit and descent, I was clearly the worst overall. Except the guy who had to leave on day 2. And then one of the girls didn't pass her health check the night before we summited, so she wasn't allowed to summit. Which honestly, at the time, I was quite jealous of her. But anyway, these guys brought us up pineapple juice, and there's this one sweet guy. I have a video I'll have to send you. There's so much stuff to send you. But I have a video where they all introduce themselves. It's like on day 2 or something. I gotta watch it back now because there were so many. It's hard to keep everyone's name. It's hard to just remember everyone's name and keep everyone straight. But this guy, he kept asking me all the time. He's like, "Samantha, are you okay? Samantha, are you okay?" And so these porters that brought the juice, they also, because that was during when I was getting the arm vice to help me down the mountain. So most of those porters actually stayed with me and the guide that I was with. And so at one point I had the guide with his arm clamp on me, and then like I slipped a little bit on the rocks, and so the guide holds on, and then one of the porters was standing behind me, and so he like grabbed my waist or my shoulders or something, I don't know, to make sure I didn't fall. And I just had like everybody on all sides of me, and it was kind of embarrassing but also kind of sweet. And that guy gave me a little, like, they have this little goodbye handshake thing that I realized today when we were saying goodbye to everyone. But he was always just asking me if I was okay anytime after that, because apparently I didn't look okay. I don't know. But point is, they brought us pineapple juice, and that I did drink, and it was delicious. And I'm pretty sure it didn't have cocaine in it. I wish that would have, I think, been really helpful at that moment. But just pineapple juice. It was still good, though. Also, I should just say for the record, I needed all this help. Holly carried her own bag all the way up and all the way down. They did offer, because she was, after the oldest guy, had to be, like, medically removed after day 2. Holly was the oldest person in our group. Where is that here? And so a lot of them called her Mama, and kept asking her if she was okay and if she needed help and if she needed somebody to carry her bag. But she always said no, and she carried her bag all the way up and all the way down and did not need hand-holding from anyone. So she kicked my butt, but that should be zero surprise to anyone. Yeah, I would recommend it chase a dream that's not climb Kilimanjaro. It's hard. But so I have back a few years ago, I climbed Mount Baldy, which is the tallest peak in like the San Gabriel Mountains or something. I don't know. It was a little over 10,000 feet. So I did that. That was the highest I'd ever been. I did try, there is Mount Whitney, which is actually the highest mountain in the contiguous United States. That's about 4 hours from where I live. And so I had been trying all summer. You have to they only let a certain number of people on the mountain, and you got to get a pass. And by the time I knew that we were doing this trip, passes for the summer had all sold out. So I've been trying all summer to get a pass, and I finally did a 1-day weekend pass. And that was going to be, to do Mount Whitney in a day is like a 16-hour hike. And so that was going to be kind of like my summit day, like test. But then that's when I got bronchitis and couldn't do it and had to give back my passes. So, and that one's 14 something. I don't know. Right now that sounds like a joke. So anyway, I was trying to do that one. But yeah, I did climb to 10,000 feet before, but that's all. And yeah, this is much more Holly's thing, but you know, that's what my therapist asked me. She's like, so what made you want to do this? And I'm like, I don't know, sometimes I like doing things that I don't think I can really do. I don't know, but not like everything, just some things. So anyway, I did this. That was fine. I checked that box for a good long while. So yeah. What else? The porters. Yeah, those guys. I mean, I think it's like an enviable job. I think it's a very good job. No, porters are like the lowest, and you work your way up to like cook and then to assistant guide and then lead guide. And they make more each time, and I think it gets physically easier. But like one of our assistant guides was 68, and he was a guide, and his son is also a guide for the same company. So it's just kind of crazy what these guys can do. I even saw a few girls. We didn't have any girl porters, but I saw some girls. I was like, dang. But yeah, it's really crazy. But like, I'm like, I definitely don't want them to risk their lives for me. That is not necessary. But what they do is just incredible. And they do it about once a month, they were telling us. Like 10 to 12 times a year. Because some months are off because it's too rainy. So I just cannot imagine. If you told me right now I had to do this again in 1 month, I would say no. Not a chance. But I think like it's a really good job, and they can work. It's 1 week a month, and then the rest of the month they can take off, or they can do another job if they want. But most of them said they don't do an additional job. It's enough to support them and their families for the month, and then they do go again the next month. So I think it's a pretty highly coveted job, but I imagine it is. Oh, well, I don't have to imagine. I know it's not for everyone. I think they can start as early as 18. Some of them looked young, but also I learned the Africans look very young. Just in general, which is great for them. But yeah, and they like don't have the proper shoe. One guy was wearing Crocs, another guy was wearing like skinny jeans, and it's just wild. And like I had my trekking poles. I only bought them for this trip. I've never used them before. I honestly don't plan on ever walking on anything that's not even ground ever again in my whole life. So I don't anticipate needing trekking poles anytime soon. So I asked one of our guides, I was like, I want to like donate these. Is there somewhere I can like donate them? And he's like, can I have them? I was like, yeah, sure. Go ahead. You want them? They're yours. And he was so excited. He was like, I had my poles, but one of them broke. So I've just been using one. And which I noticed he just used one. I thought he just wanted to use one. But he just didn't have more. I think it's hard to get those kinds of things here in Africa too. They don't have Amazon. So he was like so excited, and I was like, wow, I literally had no idea, but it was like a total win-win. And then I had, they're called gaiters, that you wear. It kind of goes from like your knees, and they wrap around the bottom of your shoe, and they kind of cover the top of your shoes, and it keeps, especially when you're going downhill, or if it's just dusty or rocky, it keeps stuff from being able to get into your shoes. And then also, like, if it's wet, then they're waterproof, so it protects, your feet. Hopefully your shoes are waterproof. And then it, like, protects you up to the ankle. Anyways, I wore those. Again, something I bought for this trip, something I don't plan on ever needing again. So, my favorite cross-eyed buddy, Edward, they were all dirty. They were sweaty. Like, I just took them off I wasn't able to wash them or anything. I was like, I'm sorry, they're dirty and they're sweaty, but would you like these? And he was like so happy. He's like, oh yeah, I'll take them home, I'll wash them, all this stuff. And so it's like, dang, I should have given away like half my stuff, because I don't need this crap, or if I do, I can just buy it on Amazon. But I didn't have most of my stuff with me. But anyway, they're so sweet. And so yeah, I don't really remember like what point I was making with all that, but they're super sweet. And then at the end we do we like give them tips. They do a tipping ceremony where they sing a song, which I'll just send you a video of that. And then like each of us would tell them what we like. We could say like words of appreciation or whatever. And like, I'm not a crier in that kind of situation. I cry about a lot of things, a lot of like negative emotions, but I don't like happy cry or anything like that. But I was like telling them how I was like, I'm pretty sure like half of you between holding my hand and carrying my bag directly helped me down the mountain yesterday. And like I just started like kind of crying, and then one of the guys asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I'm fine. But anyway, and so then I don't remember what else. That was mostly it. They tell us thank you and everything, and then once we get to the hotel, we figured out tips for all of them, and we left them above the recommended amount. It's like impossible not to. I feel like I have so much compared to what they have, and these are people with like high-end jobs in Tanzania, as they say here. Also, it's so cute, because most, if not all, Swahili words end in a vowel. So most of them know English here. They learn it in school. So a lot of them are pretty fluent. But they'll add an E sound onto a lot of our words that end in vowels. So like there was a guy in our group named Chad, and when we were doing health checks, they'd call out everyone's name to hand out their paperwork. And so our guide would always call him Chatty. And so then we started calling him Chatty because it was just cute. Well, and one of the other people in our group actually thought his name was Charlie. He called him Charlie, and Chad was like, my name's Chad. And the other guy was like, oh, sorry, whatever. And then when we got to the health check and he said Chatty, he's like, that's why I thought your name was Charlie. But it's so cute. It's like tensies and pantsies and socksies, and we would take breaks for sippy to drink water. Just like everything had an E sound on the end, and it's really kind of endearing. So yeah, I liked that. You'll see. I'll have to send a few videos that I have, and you'll be able to kind of see that, I think. But oh, and I thought so maybe Gigi mostly would appreciate it. I don't know. But our main guide was named Richard. And then our second main guy was named Pray God. Like, pray God. That's his name. And which I think is funny that it's in English when they mostly speak Swahili. But anyway, his name was Pray God, which at first I thought he was saying pray goat. And I was like, well, we are in Africa. I don't know. But he finally spelled it out for me. I was like, oh, pray God. I get it. So anyway, that was kind of funny. So yeah, that's it for the moment. That's kind of funny because I've had a very similar talk with basically like my career therapist, about whether my standards for my work product being higher than the acceptable standards for my work products means that I need to do everything to my standard. And we still I basically said yes, but I don't really know how to do that. So it's a continuing battle. But yes, one, I know Grandpa would have been really excited about our trip. And now that's what I was thinking over yesterday and today, or maybe just today, I don't know. But I was like, oh, I wish we could like compare things. Especially, I'm sure there are big differences between East and West Africa. So that would have been cool. I did today, I got a little African mask that reminded me of all those ones Grandpa had. Not as big though. I can't fit that much stuff in my luggage. But, and you know, I don't know anything about Mount Cameroon except that it is definitely less tall than Kilimanjaro. So, you know, maybe if we give it some time, I'll be able to work up for round 2. I don't know. We'll see. It would be fun to go to Cameroon and see the places that Grandpa went to. I also can't remember where Dad went when he came here. But so far, I love Eastern Africa. Climbing the mountain's a little iffy, but everything else, love.